It's 6:36 in the morning. Uh, I've been up since 3:30. I just got done streaming the response to a Ray's video, and as fun as it was, it's come to the point where I'm letting YouTube kind of control my life too much, and I need to stop. And I don't want to. I'm not saying this. Get ready. My takes on his response to my response to my response are shit, but they're my genuine thoughts. And you're either going to agree with what I say or you're not going to agree. That's just the nature of sharing online opinions. It's the nature of the beast. It's just what it is. But it's come to the point where when I can't sleep, that I need to stop. I need to take a break. And that's my own fault for sharing volatile opinions. I'm just kind of facing the consequences of what I've done. And yeah, my first video was overly emotional and a very knee-jerk reaction. And it is what it is. And I'm facing and dealing with all the dumb harassment and the usual crap, and it's just what it is about existing online. And I did inadvertently demonize an entire section of this community, and I do apologize for that. That wasn't my intention. My intention was to share my concerns about seeing the game I love being turned into something that it shouldn't be, lest it transform it into what it hasn't been for a long time. And I don't want to see that happen. I don't. And I'm very tired. It's not dramatizing this. I'm just really tired. Yeah. So I figured streaming it was probably the best thing because it's like my raw, unfiltered take on everything Array said, and probably the best way to do it, and not to take the time and embellish or what have you. It's genuine, honest thought off the cuff, so therefore it's not structured and it's really fucking long. But yeah, I think that's the best way to get this out to you in a timely manner. But I'm taking a break. I think it's time for me to go back to what I need to prioritize in my life right now, and what I should be doing is focusing on my career. This isn't my career. This was supposed to be my hobby, but now it's bloomed into something that it isn't. It's taking up too much of my time, and it's causing me too much undue stress. So it's probably, yeah, this is me signing off for a while. I don't know when I'll be back, but I have to sort out some priorities before I move forward with the internet. So yeah, I do want to preface this very briefly by saying that my response to his video was it was indeed a very emotional thing. It was a very knee-jerk emotional reaction to something that I still very much disagree with, even after his response that I've watched through several times. And what I did is I inadvertently demonized an entire section of the player base, and that was not my intention. I didn't mean to paint the competitive scene as this evil monster that we need to be fighting off with swords and shields. That was not my intention. It came off that way. I understand that, and I do apologize. That's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to express my concern. I wanted to express a common concern that many people have, hence the very overwhelmingly positive reaction to my video, I think. That is, we don't want this game to be turned into something it isn't. We don't want Team Fortress 2 to follow the structure of the modern era shooter. We don't want that to happen, right? We don't want TF2 to become this watered down shadow of its former self. And that was the main reason why I made that video, and that's the main reason why I'm doing this response to his thing now. So fuck it. We're doing it live. We're gonna get started. This is all raw, uncut shit, and whatever you get's whatever you're gonna get. Oh, he's not gonna defend himself very well. Probably not. Probably should do a script, but perhaps disrespect. It's also probably disrespectful to Array's opinion that I'm doing this live. But yeah, I'm just gonna do it this way. Do it this way because editing it, for at least on my part, is like, oh, he sat down and did all this. Fuck it.
Fortress 2 enthusiast named Zesty Jesus has just uploaded a video called "The Future is Casual," and this video is a response to my video of "Is TF2 becoming too competitive?" And after watching the video, I kind of saw this as an opportunity to sort of go over some of the.
Where does he start? I'm gonna skip.
Because I feel like these are points that a lot of other people agree with and are constantly making.
Yes.
Most of the time, I would like to sort of offer my counter opinions and counterpoints to these. So
hit me.
Let's go to the video, shall we?
Hit me.
This is a comment that was left on Array 7's video called "Is TF2 becoming too competitive?"
Judging by the fact that Zesty chose this comment to sort of model his argument after, there seems to be this sort of critical miscommunication here that I'm trying to tell you how to play the game. No, I'm not. I'm not going to tell you how to play the game.
No, that's not the issue. The critical miscommunication is that you did not properly define what you meant by competitive, and he goes back through this later in the video. He did not properly define what he meant by competitive play. And that's a problem, right? Whenever you're talking about competitive play in Team Fortress 2, everyone's minds automatically go to 6v6, they go to Highlander, they go to the other organized modes of play that streamline the experience from point A to point B of beginning to end, right? There's also, fours, multi-duo, other modes of competitive play, but that's what most people think of, and that's what I thought of when I saw his video. That's how I interpreted his video, is that, okay, we're talking about competitive play here, which, as I'm sure many of you saw from the reactions on my video, most people don't want, and some of the responses to his as well in the comments section. Moving on.
And how to get better at it, but I'm never going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you what you can and can't do. That's not what our goal here is.
And that's not my goal either. I'm not by any means telling you how to play this game. That's one of the things that's made TF2 last as long as it has. I can't talk. It's one of the reasons why TF2 has lasted as long as it has. It's because everyone's gone out of their way to play the game how they want to play it. And there is no fully correct way to enjoy the game. There is only the majority of how people enjoy it and the minority of how people enjoy it. It's that spectrum that Array defined and how it coexists harmoniously throughout all of the years. That's what it's been. That's how it's always been. Video needs to be louder. All right. Well, let me crank up my volume all the way. That's all we get.
Our goal is to look at Team Fortress 2 as objectively as a set of mechanics, as a game, as a set of interlocking parts, and do the best we can to make.
Interesting. I don't like the idea of treating TF2 as a set of mechanics. Hold on.
Make it more efficient at doing what it's supposed to do.
Wanted to
do the best we can to make it more efficient at doing what it's supposed to do.
I don't think I agree with that. So, we have an audio problem here. Why is my audio not high enough? Hold on. Properties.
Want it to be a hardcore competitive game when they are a huge...
No, I'm still not better. I can't boost the gain. I wonder why. See if I can amp this up a little bit for y'all. Well, that's lovely for OBS, is that it's just kind of fucking it up. Let's see here. Oh well, whatever. It is what it is. Just got to keep moving forward.
That's not what our goal here is. Our goal is to look at Team Fortress 2 as objectively as a set of mechanics, as a game, as a set of interlocking parts, and do the best we can to make it more efficient at doing what it's supposed to do.
I disagree with that. Team Fortress 2 is it's a game. Yeah, I agree. But Team Fortress 2 should not be viewed as this machine. It's not this machine that's been designed with one end goal in mind. Yeah, it's a video game. Yeah, it's this point A to point B, beginning to end, start of the round, end of the round thing. But posing the game in this light is saying it only has one set goal and one set purpose. And at this point in time, I think many of us can agree that that's not the case. The game has evolved from its initial state of this, class-based first-person shooter centered around territory control and 9 different players, or 9 different classes that all have different abilities in their own role, right? But it is very much not this simple mechanized thing. I don't think that it's not a smart way to think about it. It's not the correct way to think about the game, I think.
Want it to be a hardcore competitive game when they are a hugely vocal minority. Official 6v6 is dead for a reason, and competitive TF2 on an esports level also doesn't really exist for good reasons. Competitive players can enjoy the game how they want.
Okay, so this is an opportunity for me to explain exactly what I meant when I say competitive. When people
Good, because we need that.
hear the phrase competitive Team Fortress 2, exactly what they think of is some sort of hardcore, rank grinding, 6v6, ultra competitive, super hard in the trenches kind of Team Fortress 2, and that's not what I'm talking about. Competitive Team Fortress 2, I'm talking about friendly competition. To me, it's like the same kind of competition that you get when you and your...
That context would have been incredibly good to have in your first video because, yeah, I think I and most other people interpreted that as competitive mode and not friendly competition or casual. But thankfully, it's cleared up now.
Friends are like hanging out in a basement playing Super Smash Brothers, right? Sure, you're fighting against each other, and sure, whoever's the best is going to win, but you're there because you like playing A, with your friends, and B, you like playing Super Smash Brothers in the first place. I think that's a perfectly fair thing to want from a game.
I 100% agree. The future of TF2 is not in the competitive arena, and it never will be.
Well, not with that
a vast
attitude.
majority of players have
What do you think was gonna happen?
always
There we go.
enjoyed TF2 as a casual game. Organized competitive TF2 has been around for over 10 years, and despite its multiple avenues of advertisement and engagement, like eCeleb support or blog posts from Valve, in-game announcements, hell, even in...
Okay, again, back to the misinterpretation of what we mean by competitive. I'm not trying to tell you guys to go play RGL or UGC or something like that. I'm not. I'm just saying that we should prioritize the gameplay of Team Fortress 2, and the game being more competitive as a result of that would be a good thing.
Hold on.
I'm not.
Hold on.
I'm just saying that we should prioritize the gameplay of Team Fortress 2, and the game being more competitive as a result of that would be a good thing.
How would prioritizing the gameplay of Team Fortress 2 make it more competitive and be a good thing? Is that what he's saying? Hold on.
Saying that we should prioritize the gameplay of Team Fortress 2, and the game being more competitive as a result of that would be a good thing.
The gameplay would be more competitive as a result of improving the gameplay of Team Fortress 2. The game would be more competitive as a result of improving the gameplay of Team Fortress 2. Okay, no, I disagree. The gameplay of Team Fortress 2 is this chaotic, fun clusterfuck of a game, right? The game is largely defined by going from point A to point B, right, from the start of the round to the end of the round. But how you get there, this point A to point B thing, is very much this fucking hedge maze, right? And the competition from getting from end to there, from end to end, is very loosely defined, right? And that's what makes it a very casual game. It's not this streamlined experience where all of the rules are very clear, all the skill sets are very clear, all the things you need to do to improve at the game and win are all optional, right? So to say that improving the competitive nature, or sorry, to say that improving the gameplay means improving the competitive nature is wrong. Because the gameplay is how everyone experiences it in their own way to get from point A to point B. Because whenever you're doing that, you're kind of shoehorning it into this one aspect of getting from point A to point B and not leaving it for how people want to interpret it and want to play on their own way, right? So, don't agree with that.
It would make it a better game.
Changes based on competitive player input. The competitive scene has never grown larger than 5 to 10%
this is not the competitive
of the
scene I'm
player
talking
base.
about.
I want to apologize for using this chart. I didn't have a better way to show the distribution of players. This is incredibly outdated. It's from what, January 2017. The idea behind this was to show that a very small minority of players are interested in actual higher level competition for this game. That was the point behind this. We don't have any other more modern, reliable metrics to show the actual player distribution. However, I suspect it would still be largely based off of the numbers you see here. And yeah, so that's just a minor aside.
It's not the competitive that I'm talking about.
A small minority.
We're missing the point
this
here.
idea of shifting the majority towards what the minority wants, i.e. bridging competitive and casual, is a good thing, or that competitive TF2 will save the game, is just wrong.
Okay, bridging competitive and casual is a good thing.
How?
It is a good thing.
How?
Bringing two communities of players closer together, that's a good thing.
I agree. All of the different aspects of the community do need to be brought together, because at this stage in the game, at this stage in TF2's lifespan, yeah, there shouldn't be any infighting or any of this stupid civil war stuff that people are kind of parroting right now. No, we don't need any of that. I completely agree that everyone should largely be on board with improving the longevity of the game, so we can have it last as long as we want it to, so we can keep playing how we want it to. Yeah, I agree that we should come together as this player base, as this community, to push for keeping the game around as long as possible. That I agree with.
People seem to be under the impression that bridging competitive and casual means making casual more like competitive. No, it brings both of them down. It makes competitive more like casual and casual more like competitive. And some of you...
So he just said that, hold on, let me...
Bringing two communities of players, good thing. People seem to be under the impression that bridging competitive and casual means making casual more like competitive.
That's literally the argument you just made. You said bridging casual to competitive is like making casual more like competitive. And then you just said it's bringing both of them to a similar playing field by making competitive more like casual, but casual more like competitive. You still ended up at the same end result of making casual, the majority player base, more competitive. Even though you're still attempting to water down this small nugget up here and bringing them down to the level of the majority, you're still needing that requirement of bringing everyone else up here where they don't want to be, right? That's still having to water down the game and muddy the waters to get that even playing field to make everyone be on the same page. And that's not what should happen at all. What should happen is what's been happening for the longest time now, in that we've coexisted harmoniously. I've been saying that with other people lately. The whole spectrum of players has coexisted harmoniously throughout the entire game's lifespan. And the higher level competitive players, in comparison to the people that want to take the game more laid back and casually, have always existed in these separate spheres, right? The competitive players have always had their own rules, their own way to play, and they've always been up here. And whenever they want to get down here, whenever they want to come back to this casual experience, they can come back and do that. There's no issue for them to come back down to the competitive play and have their fun, right? That's something that's totally fine for them. But for us down here, we have no interest in what's going on up here. So forcing us and forcing the game to be balanced closer to what's up here is unfair. We're still having to shift what the game is designed for and how its balance is oriented towards meeting this to try to get us to be at eye to eye. Yeah, I get that you kind of have to dumb down what's going on up here to down here, but that's already been attempted. Attempts of that have already been made, in that we have the now official 6v6 competitive mode in-game that kind of exists in the middle between casual play and higher level competitive play, right? The in-game official 6v6 is a watered-down version of competitive, which is brought back down closer to how a majority of people play the game. And I think that's how it should be. You shouldn't have to bring the majority up here to make it as if though we're all in the even playing field. Should be handled in completely separate spheres. The official in-game 6v6 mode, as I was discussing with somebody else before, is it's this very middle-of-the-road thing where it has this, you know, a set of rules that mimics competitive 6v6 in that it's 6 versus 6. And there's a limited map pool. There's no random crits, and there's no random bullet spread. But there's no other rules besides that. There's no item whitelists, there's no class limits. People can still kind of fuck off and do whatever they want, but there is that more competitive nature, that drive to really seek out the victory, right? It's begun to streamline that experience from point A to point B, but it's not all the way there. It's not quite where these people are up here, where it's like a straight line instead of this hedge maze from point A to point B. That's what the in-game 6v6 mode achieves. That, I think, is the bridge we need, but keep it in its own little nugget. Keep it in its own little area, kind of like man versus machine is. I know it's not good to compare man versus machine with the rest of the game because it's such a different thing, but so is competitive. Competitive 6v6 and Highlander and all these higher level things of play are so vastly different than how a majority of people handle the game and how a majority of people want to play the game. Even if it's that friendly competition, that doesn't really play out up here. It's much more serious and almost like a job when you get to this higher level of play. And like Array says in a few minutes, I know I recall this, it's not that fun. It's not all that fun unless you really are a diehard fan of what's going on up here. So no, he presented this circular reasoning of making casual look more like competitive is not gonna rebalance the game to be more like casual, but then he says, oh, we have to bump up casual to competitive play while also bringing competitive down to casual play. But it doesn't matter what we do to bring it doesn't matter what we do to bring competitive players down to casual play. They're gonna ignore everything we do anyway and keep it up here. They're gonna keep it up here and keep it as their own thing that they've been doing for the past 10 fucking years with their own rules and whitelists and things like that. It doesn't matter. They don't care what happens down here. They only care about what's going on up here. Fuck. That's why I made my video. That was my main concern, is that we should not be trying to shift everything that's down here up there to where that 5 to 10% is. That's not good for the game. It's gonna drive people away.
No, it brings both of them down. It makes competitive more like casual and casual more like competitive. And some of you would I'm sure some of you would really like competitive if it was more like casual. That's probably one of the reasons why you don't play competitive.
Perhaps, yeah, some people would enjoy competitive if it was more like casual, but not everyone, and still not a majority. And here's the thing, if people wanted that more competitive style, they can go seek it out. They can go and enjoy higher levels of competitive play if they want to. Those options have always been there. We shouldn't be forcing people to want to get up here. That's not what we want to do. Ever. Really. At least that's not how I want to. I've put in a lot of time into this game, and I know at this point, approaching 7,000 hours, I don't want to be over here. I like it down here. So, moving on.
Or don't play competitively, I should say. You know, because every time I say competitive, I think, what do you mean there? What do you mean, Array? Do you mean UGC?
And yeah, I know I keep dancing back and forth between competitive modes and competitive ways to play the game and how Array is defining competitive, but so I'm keeping it kind of in between the two definitions, between the friendly competition and the higher modes of competitive play.
Do you mean like TF2's competitive mode? Like, no, where you're actually trying to win and you actually give a damn. That's what I'm talking about. Trying to win. I think trying to win is something that people are forgetting. And I think people don't understand.
No. People aren't forgetting that the whole point is to win. That's why the game is fun. The game is fun because there is that loose goal of victory at the end, but how you get there is not defined. The rules aren't set, right? You have the loose bare bones structure of how payload works, or how 5CP works, or how King of the Hill works, but how you achieve that goal is up to the player. It's up to how you want to do it. Do we want to do it with 10 demo nights versus fucking a normally structured team? Sure, fuck it, you can do it that way, right? We're all left to our own vices and able to achieve that goal of victory however we want. That's not being missed out on here. A vast majority of players, even going by off of your spectrum, like from -2 onwards, all of those people have not forgotten the objective of winning. We still seek out that end goal, but how we get there is what defines the difference between competitive and casual.
Understand exactly the nuance that goes into Team Fortress 2 when you're genuinely trying to win. And I think that's what people miss out on the most.
Stricter rule sets and severely limiting in-game content. They do this via item whitelists, small map rotations.
I think it's rude that I'm covering his face. Hold on. I just realized I was covering Array's face. There he is. There's the beautiful man. I feel bad for doing that. I'm sorry. We're 30 minutes in that I just realized I was covering his damn face.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll agree.
You have bedhead. You got crazier bedhead than I do right now, man. Jesus. Actually, no. My hair's pretty bad. Oops.
I'll agree with this. I actually don't like the level of rules and restrictions that competitive TF2 requires. I think that's one of the biggest barriers for entry, is just getting used to an entirely different climate for playing this game in the first place. It's hard. It's very hard. It's very intimidating. It's not a lot of fun. I'll put it that way.
Yet
Thank you. Common ground. Finally, common ground. On that, we agree.
Semi-organized nature of TF2 into something that is simpler, really well structured, repetitive, and predictable, which is required for a competitive game, would frankly kill TF2 because it would turn it into something that people don't want to play.
So by this logic then, that the only difference between a game like Valorant or CSGO or Overwatch is its structure. Is that the argument? Is that the argument that I'm getting from? Am I reading that correctly?
Yes, you are. That is exactly the argument I was trying to make. The difference between all of these games that still have that loosely structured, or that have that loose defining backbone of point A to point B, of victory, or sorry, from beginning to round to victory to conclusion, the difference between all these games is just the meat in the middle. That's what defines them different. That's what sets them apart, right? CSGO is different because of how it's structured, how its rules define itself apart from other games. Same for Team Fortress 2. That is exactly what I was trying to say. So, yeah, TF2's structure is very much like a hedge maze, where you can go so many different pathways and avenues and fun, wacky ways. It's like a fucking multi-dimensional hedge maze where you can just kind of go through this tesseract of fuck until you can get from beginning to end. Unlike games like CSGO and Valorant and things like that, it's a much more two-dimensional, even one-dimensional, beginning to end sort of thing. I'm not watering down the skill it requires to play games effectively like CSGO, but it's a comparative thing between their structures where CSGO's is far more simpler than one like Team Fortress 2's, and that's what sets them apart. But they're similar in that you have to go from beginning to end, from beginning of the round to the end of the round. That's where all of these games come together into something similar. But they are very different. I'm not comparing them and saying that they are identical by any means, aside from just the beginning to end thing.
TF2 is so beyond different from either of them.
I agree.
And we have our history with Overwatch and comparing TF2 to Overwatch.
Yeah, and a lot of porn.
But apples and oranges. Seriously, apples and oranges here. It really is. It really is. And
apples and oranges, but they're still fruit, right? Still fruit, still juicy, still eat them, they still taste good, but they're very different. But at the end of the day, they're still within the same family, you know?
I think that saying that competitive TF2 is just the same as CSGO, Overwatch, and Valorant, I don't think that's a fair comparison.
See, and that's not the point I was trying to make. The point I was trying to make is that if you're trying to encourage the competitive style, you're going to have to water down the game. You have to water down its structure to be similar to Counter-Strike or to Overwatch, to simplify that path from beginning to end, to, reduce down that tesseract into, a fucking straight line, something that looks more like this and not like this. So that's what I was trying to do here. And again, I'm not saying that they're the same, but that's the point I was trying to make, is that we shouldn't be encouraging this watering down of what TF2 is to facilitate victory, when it's always been like an optional thing. So, yeah.
Hey everybody, Fat
God
Magic
damn
here,
it.
and today...
I don't care about Fat Magic, take me back.
I don't think that's a fair comparison. I think that's an insult to TF2, actually. I think that's an insult of how well TF2 is designed.
Changes like this.
No, that's not an insult at all. That was just the point I was trying to make.
But simply expecting for everyone else to conform to those new rules and be happy with them, which is an argument made in Array's video, is simply unfair. Especially to those left of the number 3 on his scale. Balance.
I'm so happy he uses this scale, by the way. I worked very hard on this. I don't know if you guys can tell. I spent hours working on this scale. I hope you guys appreciate it. I hope it's a good visual aid.
It is. It looks good. I don't deny that. It's good
I
shit.
hope so. But see, here's one of the things that I know when I first watched this video. This further exemplifies what I'm talking about when I say that this point is missed. We have the question of what do we design the game for? We have the question of which one of these two do we cater the design of the game for? Personally, I think catering toward the right half, this 50%, I would say, is probably the best option to make it a better game. And the farther we go to the left, the less TF2 loses its identity as a game and more of a social space.
No, I agree, and I completely agree with that, but the unfortunate thing is about how you structured your first video is that you made it seem as though we're only caring about the 4s and 5s on his scale, and not everyone from 0 to 3. When you say competitive, again, the miscommunication here is that you're trying to take everyone from -5 to 3 and shove them all the way up here, where competitive play is the ultimate goal, is the ultimate victory. That's not what should be done. The game has pretty much always been balanced for that right half of the scale. On that, we agree. This side is what the game should be balanced for, because this is where the game is still the game that it is, right? TF2 is at its base at effectively 0, and everything over here is playing that game at effectively 0. But at the extreme end members, when they start turning the game into something it isn't, we shouldn't be balancing the game for what's over there. Should be balancing it from what's more on the 0 to 3 end, or more towards the middle, where you're not cutting in-game content or simplifying down that structure to either achieve victory or to, you know, dick around like a My Little Pony server or something. Yeah.
And maybe that's what people want, but I think TF2 is too good for that. I think it's way too good for that.
No, I agree. The game should definitely be kept as it is. It should be kept as a first-person shooter, but and with that, you know, minor aspect of like a social space. But yeah, I just agree on that.
Way too well designed to just turn into VR chat.
What has made the game?
That's not the argument I'm making, and I don't think anyone's making that argument either. The concern is that we don't want it to be at either ends of the extreme. We don't want it to be all the way out here for the hardcore competitive players, and we don't want to be all the way out here for like the fucking sexy roleplay servers where Fem Scout and Fem Pyro models are the norm. We don't want that. We want TF2 to continue existing in this constant flux between both ends of the spectrum, where everything is, again, coexisting harmoniously. That's what we want, and that's why the game has lasted so long. And actually, I'm gonna correct myself here. I don't think balancing for everything on just the right side is not a good idea. It should just be for the majority. And I'm gonna keep supporting the argument I made in my first video. It should be for the majority of players, where the majority resides. Because when you start going to the ends of that graph, you're starting to get into the minority, and that's where you don't want to be. You want to be balancing it and keeping it to where most people are going to be happy. But you do have to account for all the different ways people play the game. And I think it is more important to account for these guys than it is for the people out here doing the social VR chatty things, because that's effectively not the game anymore. While out here at the competitive end, it still resembles Team Fortress 2, but it's still a very different rule set and a very different thing. So -3 onwards is more what the game should be for, and you know, the majority of players, not just half or just half, but the majority. The bell curve is what it should be balanced for, not either ends, not just the segment, but the majority.
Game timeless and fun. A casual first-person shooter. TF2 is one of the last bastions of the casual FPS category.
Wait.
It should.
I don't understand this. This last bastions of the casual FPS category. I don't think I fully understand that. You know, you can choose what games you play, right? Like, you can choose to take them seriously or choose not to. No one's making you play.
What I meant by last bastion of the casual first-person shooter is that the focus of the game isn't hardcore victory, unlike other modern FPS games. Modern FPS games highly encourage people to only play the game in largely one way, to treat it as if though you must win with your team, perform at maximum capacity, and get to the end, right? Especially games like CSGO, especially games like Overwatch, where their casual and competitive formats are almost exactly the same, except one has ELO rankings and better matchmaking than their casual scene does. It's all the same thing, and they prioritize winning and getting better at the game more so than Team Fortress 2. That's what I was trying to say here.
Overwatch competitively, because it's super easy to play a shooter casually. Just don't take it too serious. Don't take it seriously.
Okay, look. Certain games have a higher air of competitive nature to them. TF2 does not. If you step inside of CSGO, it is night and day difference between trying to win and playing casually. It is night and day. And comparing it to either Overwatch or Valorant or all these other more competitively oriented games, it is a very, very different, and they're all very different games. Oh God,
that's it. Like it's a choice. It is an actual choice to play something competitively or casual.
Structures.
It is a choice, and that's all. And that is a choice that should remain in the game
This is
for TF2. It should never be one set way or the other.
not why most people are here. It's just like this guy said.
It's just like this guy said. No, it's just what Breadcrumbs said. They have a name. Credit your sources. Give them credit for their
I did. He's right there.
ideas.
He's there. There's his name.
Sorry, that's a nitpick. It's kind of a pet peeve of mine. Moving on, whatever.
He's right there. His name is there.
TF2
name's
is
there.
where you can frag,
Yeah.
hang out, and have a great time without needing to worry about winning. You shouldn't have to need or worry about getting better at the game. It has been and always should be optional. And if players
Yeah, but
want
see, here's the thing with that though. We're trying to make that side more accessible to people. That's what we're trying to do. A lot of us are trying to make that option so that people can play the way they want to play easier to get to. I agree with everything.
It's already easy to get to. It's been the same way for over 10 years. If people want to seek out other ways to play the game, we already have the avenues for them to achieve that. It doesn't need to be streamlined anymore. You know, the people that want to get to competitive have all their different ways to get there. The people that want to do the VR chat thing have all their different ways to get there. If we start prioritizing the pathways to one thing more than the other, we're going to skew how this game is balanced and how this game is designed. It's not how it should
What
go.
do you say here? I 100% agree. It should be optional. How you play a video game should 100% always be optional and completely up to you. It is supposed to be relaxing, it's supposed to be fun, and no one can tell you how to relax or have fun. I mean, as long as it's not hurting anybody else. What I am trying to do, however, is make the competitive side or competitive play in TF2 much more accessible, right?
It already is. It's already very accessible. The problem is that it's so different than the vanilla game that people aren't interested in it. You know, it's already there for people that want to play it. You know, its accessibility is about as wide as a fucking barn door. There are so many people that constantly advocate for people to go play fucking competitive. You have people like Banny who pretty much always advertise and advocate for people to go try competitive. You have third-party people coming in and creating competitive formats like Face It twice. Face It's done this twice where they set up this competitive system where they offer this option. Hey, if you want a more competitive format, come check out what we have to offer. It's always been there. And we don't need to facilitate it any more than we already do. Otherwise, by facilitating it via game balance, by facilitating it by making in-game changes that affect how everyone plays the game, by changing weapon balance, by changing all these different things, you're going to start hurting more people than helping them, right? Everyone already has those options laid out before them. It's up to them to pick them, right? And like I said, it's optional. People can go out of their way to play competitive if they want to. We shouldn't have to say, hey, we shouldn't keep, nudging them. We shouldn't keep nudging them up here. The steps are there, right? Perhaps they are very steep, yes, right? But and here's the thing too, right? It's going back to the point you just made. It's our option. It's our choice to take a game seriously or not. And we already experienced that inside of all of the servers we already play on, inside of community servers, inside of casual servers. It's the try hard. They're already there. People already push themselves to the limit even inside of the casual space. They already go out of their way to perform at maximum capacity without needing to get to this upper level, right? People already have that self-motivation to get better at the game and what have you. So, moving on.
I'm not saying we should make the game completely competitive. I'm just saying more competitive.
It's already about as competitive as it should get. If we made it any more competitive, if we started balancing the game to be more competitive, we begin getting to that skew. That's what I think.
And I think that is the key delineation here. Because none of us are saying that Team Fortress 2 should be always competitive all the time. We should structure it like 6v6 Highlander all the time. No, not at all. Not at all. I'm saying we should encourage people to play competitively more so that the people who like playing competitively have a better place to play competitively amongst each other.
They already do. They already have many avenues to enjoy higher levels of competitive play. They have all of the third-party services that have always been there. And if they want to play the game in its whole self, but still be competitive, they can just go be a tryhard in casual servers.
That's all I'm thinking. All I'm trying to do is just encourage communities to strengthen themselves and strengthen each other.
That's a fair argument to make, and I think we already do that. by people being largely interested in other spheres of the community by watching them on Twitch or engaging in them if they want to. So
that competitive nature, want to get better at the game so they can grow their skills and compete against other players to win. Well, guess what? That's pretty much always been there in the Sixes and Highlander scene. Ah yes, of course, competitive players all bailed out for Overwatch and other games some years ago, but we all know how well that worked out for them. They're all back now and want TF2 to be something it isn't. Again. Competitively oriented players are indeed the loudest vocal minority of the...
I'm not even gonna touch that.
Why not?
I'm not even gonna touch
it.
that.
It's there for you.
Oh, what a statement.
The TF2.
It's a true statement. A lot of higher level TF2 competitive players bailed out for Overwatch when it first came out. A lot of players left TF2 for Overwatch because they saw it as the new light, the new team-based first-person shooter that was going to be the new Team Fortress 2. That's why people left. And they saw it as this way to get better and to branch out into competitive video gaming, right? But then, unfortunately, Overwatch has now gone through its lifespan. People have begun to realize, hey, its balance is not going to be as consistent as Team Fortress 2. Building skill in the game is not nearly as relevant or important like it is in Team Fortress 2 because its stability is out of whack. They keep rebalancing the game every 6 fucking months to change the meta, and it pisses people off. Because any amount of skill developed in getting better in that meta is completely invalidated at the fucking, flash of a pan. Blizzard does that to keep the game fresh and different and unique. But they push it as this dumb, bizarrely competitive game, and they pump so much fucking money into it by giving it this highly televised competitive scene. But that it's not succeeding anymore because they keep changing it up too much. Right? Skill development is basically laughed at Blizzard because, haha, money, give us more, Overwatch 2, gonna be the same game again. And TF2 players who went to Overwatch realized that. They said, okay, fuck, we enjoy the stable nature of Team Fortress 2, the fact that the competitive way to play this game has largely remained the same for the greater part of the past 13 years. So they came back, and they're back in competitive modes. And guess what? Their influence came back as well. And I've seen calls from several competitive players who have come back from Overwatch and other competitive games like CSGO saying, hey, we should try to make TF2 more competitive because that's what I like. And no, you have your competitive modes. They're there. You can go enjoy them like you did back in 2013.
Player base. They have driven a lot of change over the past few major updates, and they hold a lot of influence. But when Valve listened to their input on balance changes, what did we get? We got items that were nerfed into the floor that were perfectly fine and wacky and casual, but not competitively viable because it didn't fit into a predictable, repetitive, and boring meta. We received a...
Yes! Don't just say no. Yes! All of these items were nerfed because competitive players complained about them. Shall we go through them? Yes, we shall. Okay, first off, gloves of running urgently, and the eviction notice. Competitive players complained, oh, Heavy shouldn't be able to get to mid too fast without a significant punishment afterwards. Heavy moves too fast, he is therefore too influential at the mid fight, especially in 6v6. So what did they do? They completely nerfed the GRU into the floor and reworked the eviction notice into something that is just a GRU light that no one wants to fucking touch because the item sucks cock now. And here's the thing. Every other movement-based item in Team Fortress 2 that increases your speed only establishes a downside when it's being actively used and for a short time after. For example, the Power Jack has damage resistance. For example, the Overdose. You can't heal anybody while you're getting that movement speed. For example, the Escape Plan. You take mini-crits and can't be healed while moving faster, and you take mini-crits for a very short time after you put the item away. They adjusted the GRU because competitive players realized that Heavy is too strong at that beginning mid-fight, at the start of their highly structured format, and that skews off their meta. Therefore, it got nerfed into the floor. Next, Flying Guillotine. It got nerfed because only Sixes competitive players complained that a scout could chuck the cleaver across mid, hit the medic, down him for more than half of his health, and then a soldier could bomb in with a semi-well-placed rocket and kill him. That's the only reason why the cleaver got fucking nerfed. And they just removed the mini crit on stun aspect because they nerfed the Sandman into the floor, but the Sandman's a completely different thing. Okay, base jumper. The only reason why the base jumper was nerfed because people were complaining in competitive modes that scouts can't get to soldier because they were able to have infinite redeploy and they had higher air mobility. All right. the effective time of a soldier in the air with the old base jumper let them hang in the air and be mobile for longer periods of time. So not only was it harder to land air shots on them, playing either as soldier or demo man, but scouts couldn't get within their effective range to take them down. So soldiers could stay up in the air while moving rather quickly to keep peppering down on the med and kill him off, right? They nerfed the base jumper so they could get scouts to, they interpreted that as scouts not being able to get back at soldiers and keep that meta balance as it is, right? Soldiers, the effective time of a soldier in the air with the base jumper was reduced significantly so it could accommodate for players who play scout and other hit scan things aside from sniper to get him back down there. So that's why that was nerfed. And in casual, all of these items were fine. All of them were fine. Oh, lordy. Oh, lordy.
Were perfectly fine and wacky and casual, but not competitively viable because
No.
it didn't fit into a predictable, repetitive, and boring meta. We received a barely
Moving
functional
on.
matchmaking system that killed community servers. They got their 6v6
Yeah, that's, we got this broken matchmaking system that killed community servers. Oh, God. Oh, man. Where to even start with that? I was having a discussion the other day about what...
mode
He-
too, and
let me
when
finish
these
the section.
competitive players got the changes they wanted, like in the Meet Your Match or Jungle Inferno updates, what did they do? They just fucking ignored them and went back to what they've been doing for the past decade.
Because it was broken. Because it didn't work. I don't understand. I don't know where to start with this. I don't know where to start this. Where is the conspiracy that all competitive players are secretly trying to make TF2 their personal crybaby game? Where is that?
That's not a conspiracy theory at all. That's not the point I'm trying to make at all. Some people think that. I certainly don't think that at all, but their influence has been largely listened to by Valve over the past major updates, and it's very evident in weapon changes and the implementation of an in-game matchmaking system.
Conspiracy. Where is this? You guys do you remember that they play the same game that you do? They're not trying to take away they are this involved with TF2 because they love Team Fortress 2.
They do play the same game we do, but they play a very, very different version of the game than what the majority enjoys.
They love Team Fortress 2 so much, they sink almost 10,000 hours, more than that. I think Banny is like 18,000 hours in TF2. Now, it's one thing to tell these people that...
You can't bring up the hours argument and say that hours and experience mean that they understand the game more than other people do. I beg to differ. People like me, there are more people who have put thousands of hours into casual TF2 than people who have put hours into competitive TF2. And that's just simply because of the size of the player bases in both of those scenes. To say that my 7,000 hours or so of Team Fortress 2 is effectively irrelevant because I don't play competitive is wrong. My input on the game and how things should be balanced should be held to at least a similar weight as someone who plays the game differently with a similar hour count. So...
they don't know what they're talking about. That those thousands of hours of experience mean nothing, right? It's another thing to accuse them of...
No, their experience does mean something. You know, their input on the game is incredibly valid because they are at the highest levels of play and they know how to break shit, right? If a competitive player can break a weapon in a watered down version of the game, then it's probably going to be broken for casual play. So, some balance changes should be taken from what these guys say, but not everything.
ruining the game. Of course, people are probably going to be upset that I'm defending competitive players because people don't like competitive players. And I'll admit, they're not usually the most jovial people out there. Some of them have, admittedly, some abrasive personalities. But to accuse them of not loving something they spend so much time trying to make better or something...
Whoa, I never accused them of that. I never accused them of not loving Team Fortress 2. I never said that once.
Trying to be a part of, I think, is a little much, in my opinion. Meet Your Match being the result of competitive player influence, I think is a huge misnomer. I think that is a huge misnomer. I think that is the result of a lack of resources. I think a lack of resources, lack of time, lack of energy, lack of enthusiasm, lack of a lot of things that TF2 desperately needs these days. But I do not blame competitive players for Meet Your Match.
I do, and here's why. Valve reached out to a very small handful of players on their input when they were designing Meet Your Match. I don't place the entirety of the blame on the Meet Your Match update on competitive players, but what we got as a result from their input is on them. How it was implemented and the clusterfuck that it was, and how poorly and, as Array puts it, as unenthusiastically as it was handled, was Valve's fault. That wasn't the competitive player's fault. Had they handled it better, had they, put a little bit more time into it, it probably would have been a lot more successful on launch. The launch is what left a very bad taste in everyone's mouth. And the misnomer is that the Meet Your Match update would have been fine had the launch been handled correctly. But I'm going to go back to the point that I want to make about the current matchmaking system that we have right now. The current matchmaking system for casual sucks. It just, it doesn't work for a game like Team Fortress 2 because the matchmaking system right now prioritizes ongoing games that are in need of players. And what's happening in an ongoing game that's in need of players to balance things out, it's likely an ongoing role. I'm sure everyone here has experienced this, that a majority of games that you get put into inside of TF2's casual mode is a role because people are bailing out because the teams are hideously one-sided. People leave, the game coordinator throws more people in, the role continues, the round ends, rinse and repeat. The matchmaking system prioritizes these more empty servers because multiple people are queuing at the same time and throws them into that ongoing match where you have this unbalance of players. Quick play, here we go, quick play argument. Quick play functioned better because you were presented with a list of servers that were already mostly full with an ongoing game. You can kind of pick and choose, hey, throw me into this server that has more people with like 1 or 2 slots open. The game's already going on. People aren't bailing out because it's a role or there's some kind of misbalance, right? You can dive in to an actively ongoing, more balanced game. When you have a matchmaking system like this, it only works for smaller team sizes, and it only works when you have like that button ticked off, like don't join round in progress. Throw us into a fresh game, right? Fresh game, everyone starts out at square one. You're not discombobulated by an ongoing game. There's no rule set off, and then the match carries forth. That wasn't implemented in the casual matchmaking system, and that's one of the main reasons why it does suck. But it's not the only reason. The reason why is because the player sizes are too big. There's too many variables to account for that a matchmaking system can't score, right? There's too many different factors that define skill in this game. You have the different classes, you have the different weapons, you have the loadouts and rule sets and all of this stuff that a matchmaking system can't account for and properly place people into balanced games. It doesn't work for a game like Team Fortress 2. It works for higher levels of competitive play that water down the rule set, that where skill largely defines, a team's going to win over another. But in casual, where you have random crits, random bullet spread, all this other stuff, it's too much for a matchmaking system to account for. So, yeah, the fucking matchmaking system is not good as it is right now. It needs serious adjustments for it to work for a casual system. I still think, personally, and here's this whole thing, right? Here's this whole thing. Oh God, this is extending way longer. Here's the whole thing, right? You can play how you want, right? You can go out and oh Christ, what's the point I'm trying to make here? I lost my train of thought. It'll come back to me.
Not at all. Not at all.
And the majority of players that enjoy the game casually.
He seems out of breath. I'm sorry. I'm putting you guys through this distressing thing. I understand that these are my opinions. You're not gonna agree with everything I say, and I don't expect anyone to, and I don't, and just like Array doesn't expect for everyone to agree with his opinions. I think having this kind of a discourse is incredibly important. We need to be having these discussions because the way forward for Team Fortress 2 is very murky. And when someone says that the path forward is this one thing, you're gonna get a lot of dissent. You're gonna get a lot of disagreement of opinion, right? There is no one set path forward. The future isn't just in casual, and it isn't just in competitive. The future is the spectrum. The future is the maintenance of that spectrum and pushing things towards how this game has been since effectively day one.
We're left to pick up the fucking pieces. Oh, Valve just needs to give competitive even more attention, or make even more changes so the game becomes more competitive. Then it will stick, right guys? It'll work this time, right? TF2 will never be a fully viable esport as a whole intact game.
Okay. There's a lot to pick apart there. So I just went through the rest of the video and just sort of watched everything. And the rest of the video basically just doubles down on this claim that Team Fortress 2 not only should not be competitive, but cannot be competitive.
I never said that TF2 shouldn't be competitive at all.
Right.
And I didn't say that TF2 cannot be competitive. I said that TF2 cannot be a competitive esport as a whole game. The only way TF2 has managed to get up to the competitive esport level is with 6v6. That's the only way that it's managed to get there at any reasonable size or scale.
And to either of them throughout this entire video, I have yet to be given, I feel like I have yet to be given any kind of substantial evidence as to why not. Like, all I hear is that you don't like competitive. And
no, I don't, but I'm not saying that TF2 can't be competitive.
Other people don't like competitive. And that's fine. That's bound to happen. That's just a part of having a demographic. But why TF2 can't be competitive, or why we can't encourage more people to play competitive, I still have yet to be given a reason why that's a bad thing or why it can't be done at all. So far, all I've gotten is that TF2 is casual and chaos and people like it for that, and changing that would take that away. Well, we're not trying to take that away, number one. But number two, we can't. We literally can't. Everything that you love about TF2 is going to one of the points I made in the video was that we can't take the silliness out of Team Fortress 2. Can you?
Yes, you can. You can. You can by implementing balance changes that water it down to facilitate a more competitive style. And that's what I want to avoid. That's why I made this video. That's why I'm doing the response now. You can very much remove the inherently casual nature of the game if you're trying to push this towards a more modern competitive esports style. You know, if you're changing the mechanics of the game to facilitate that, there's going to be a limit to where people can't accommodate for that inside of casual modes. It's not going to be successful.
You don't need to act like we are. But look, I realize that in the video, I think I might have omitted a part of the video that I think I probably should have put in. And that
actually, I know. You know what? I want to spend a little bit more time. I want to spend a little bit more time on talking about that. So yeah, balancing the game. The whole point of the video I made was to express my concerns for TF2 being pushed towards this competitive mode and balance changes being put towards the more competitive mode. There's a threshold, right? There's a threshold for how much this game can be changed before casual can accommodate. And we've already begun to see small signs of that, especially with, you know, weapon changes. For example, the eviction notice. When was the last time you saw someone using that? No one wants to touch it anymore, even in the wacky portions of the game, right? If you keep pushing that line closer and closer towards a competitive style, you're going to have more and more stuff dropping out that people don't want to touch. And that's something Valve wants to address. Valve wants to address why everything in their game can't be used for both casual and competitive. And that's that middle ground that a lot of people do call for. But the thing is, and like I've been saying, like I've said multiple times, is that people can take the game and play it competitively however they want. They can do that in casual as a try-hard. They can do that in their higher levels of competitive play in the more organized game modes. And if we try to push more people to think that TF2 is about winning and getting better and pushing that desire, that urge to succeed, then it's just going to screw things up. It's going to start pushing TF2 into something that it isn't.
That is exactly why I think that competitive is good.
If this was my whole argument, why didn't I phrase it like this? Because emotional response, I fucked up, and that's why I'm doing this now.
For Team Fortress 2, or that competitive player input, or that gearing the game towards competitive players is good for it. To me, Team Fortress 2, every element and every gameplay decision made in Team Fortress 2 was made in the interest of accomplishing a goal. And to me, that goal is encouraging cooperation between players. Not just cooperation though, synergy. Actual like cohesion. Everyone is running in this machine. It is a team, and the efficiency at which you can innovate with your strategy as a team completely impacts and entirely impacts how you win and how you succeed. That sounds super exciting to me.
See, that's actually an interesting take to have, because in my opinion, it's very much different. All of the balance changes in this game have been made to stabilize the chaos to some extent, because remember what Team Fortress 2 is. TF2 was effectively a tech demo for Source, right? TF2 was never meant to blow up and bloom into what it is now. It was never designed with this inherent need to win or lose or to get better. It just sort of evolved into that over the years. And yeah, that it's Lord, we need to watch that again. Hold on.
As a team, completely
Yeah, it wasn't put through this. It wasn't meant to be this machine for victory. It wasn't meant to be this machine of synergy and class based and team things and things like that. I lied. It is meant to be this team-based first-person shooter. It's meant to be this team-based thing where you're kind of going towards this loosely oriented goal, right? But God, it's still not what I think works.
And entirely impacts how you win and how you succeed. That sounds super exciting to me. That sounds like a fantastic game. That sounds like a fantastic game to play casually, to play competitively, to play as an esports, whatever, to just play, period. And it is. Team Fortress 2 is a lot of fun. I don't know if you guys know this yet. This game has succeeded for as long as it has because of how good it is at accomplishing the goal of encouraging players to synergize and communicate and cooperate with each other. And
partially. The reason why TF2 is also successful is because people have always been able to go out of their way and play it how they want. It's that harmonious coexistence of that spectrum. It's not just the synergy. It's not just, people coordinating together and win. The game is great. But it's all of these parts together coming as a whole for all the player base, not just the synergy and not just the winning and all that.
I think if we're going to continue keeping TF2 relevant and modern and innovative, we're going to have to encourage and service the one thing the game is designed to do. So I just watched
What is the one thing the game is designed to do? I feel like his entire argument and my argument kind of go back to square one with that statement, where TF2 apparently has this one goal to be this one thing, where at this point in time, it doesn't. There are so many different ways to approach this game and play this game that you can't say that this mechanized system of a video game has one purpose. It doesn't anymore. It's always been this amalgamation of different approaches, that have just gotten more and more diverse over the years. And when you say that we should push the game towards this notion of one purpose, of one end goal, of all the gears turning and all the parts moving and all of this, then you begin to lose sight of why the game is still relevant and popular. I think that's not a good way to interpret the game.
I just took a look at your news video, right? And I couldn't help but notice that you actually have a very fancy collection of Bionicle figures behind you, right? And as a fellow Bionicle appreciator myself, I'll see if I can't put this in terms that I think you'd understand.
As funny as I find that, like, hey, fellow Bionicle enthusiast, me putting it in terms I understand. I understand everything you're trying to say. I know you probably didn't mean like offense by that, but I found that a little like, okay.
When Makuta originally released the Borak Swarms, Kadak and Gadak reawoke, right? And as we are very well aware, the Borak Swarms seem almost to be like an autoimmune system for the biological chronicle that is Matanui. Now, the Toamata, before they got turned into the Toa Nuva, they froze Kadak and Gadak with energized protodermis exactly where they are, right? And imprisoned them because it was not their time yet. What they were doing to the island was destructive and was seen as destructive, but on the whole, it was for the betterment and for the better health of the Great Spirit. And, as we found out later, in order for the Great Spirit to be awakened, the Borak Swarms had to, in fact, have been released. So, I think now has come that time. I think it's time that we release Kadak and Gadak, and we did what was for the best of our game.
I appreciate the analogy. I like the usage of Bionicle lore to kind of get the point across here, but I think it's the wrong opinion to have on where this game is going. TF2 doesn't need to go through this rebirth or this massive evolution where we need to kind of like scrape away the surface of what the game is and turn it into something new in order for it to have a future. I think TF2 is fine as it is. In my opinion, it's not quite time for the Balrog to come out of their hidey holes yet. In fact, I think they never should. And what's funny about that is, even though the Balrog came out of the hole, out of their hidey holes and cleaned off the island of Matanui so the giant robot face could come out and do its thing, guess what? The body of Matanui was being controlled by the villain, and then the villain shot the only savior for the fucking universe off to a different planet. And I find that really funny that the thread that people think I'm spinning, and that I am kind of spinning, is that if you have the wrong people at the helm of the 30 million, 40 million foot tall robot, you're gonna get negative results. And I think that placing the future of the game into those that are largely appealing to a small minority is not gonna end well. And it won't end well. And most people I've seen agree with me, but then again, it's probably due to my own echo chambers inside of my YouTube channel and inside of my Discord, and I can't, it's impossible to look at everyone's opinions in this game, right? So many people play Team Fortress 2, so many people engage in the different aspects of this game that you literally cannot keep up with all of it, right? You can't keep up with it all. I just think that the idea of rebirth and pushing TF2 to be more competitive in a modern sense is not healthy. Because again, and I know I've been repeating myself, and this has not been the structured response people want. We've been going for an hour. But I don't think that's where it needs to go. Everything's fine. Everything's fine in terms of how people go and enjoy the game. Everything's fine in terms of the people who want to take it seriously. Everyone's fine for people that don't want to take it seriously. It's just this nice, neat, coexisting spectrum of players that you very effectively exemplified in your chart, right? And that's pretty much all it should be, right? People should just be able to go and pick their spot on the spectrum, move however they want to move across it, and that's it. That's what I think. I think it's a very destructive mentality for this game to want to skew that spectrum in any direction, to skew the peak of that bell curve towards either side. Keep it where it is now. Stability is good, you know. Competitive players know that stability is good. They oftentimes fight for it. And yeah, that's the main point I wanted to make in my video. And now, up until this point, this has been an insanely massive clusterfuck of stuff from start to finish now, at least from my part. So definitely not the most organized response I could have given to this. I don't have the time to really sit down. It would take like 2 weeks for me to like actually put out something more organized, because I have stuff I need to be doing. My wake up alarm goes up in 30 minutes. I woke up 3 hours ago and it's now 6:30 in the morning. So yeah, that's really it, I think. Are we talking in vain though? At the end of the day, Valve doesn't move a finger to do something anyway. I don't know. I will maintain the hope that that Valve is going to be doing something. I will maintain the hope that that we will see more good stuff from them in the future. I'm hopeful for that. I want it to happen, but I'm not keeping my hopes high. So we will see what happens in the future, but until then, we just got to be patient. So yeah, that's my response. Certainly not elegant or as eloquently put as his. Naturally, I'm not the most gracious of speakers when I don't have a script. So yeah, there you go. That's all I got. I can't sleep now. It's fucked. Stress has been keeping me awake from this, so hooray. And I gotta shower, and I gotta work out first, and I have to go do shit now. So yeah, that's all I got. So yeah, that's it. Hopefully that will suffice as a response. People are still gonna get pissy. Also, I like some of the comments that were left on this. So here we go. Here's one of my favorite comments that someone left. I'm not arguing in good faith. I'm just doing the same comp players want to take your guns nonsense that garbage spaces like RTF2 spout over and over again. I'm doing this for views and nothing else. You think if I was doing this for views or doing anything that I do for views, that I would take the time to sit down and actually kind of try to structure an argument, that I would, you know, and for any of my videos, do you think I'm doing any of this for views when I put, you know, hours or months of worth of work into something I want to make? You think if I was doing this for views or for attention, I would have taken the simplest route possible. I could have made that video 3 minutes, and I could have said something even more extreme and more agreeable, and it would have gotten 20 times the amount of views. I could have put in buzzwords and all this other hashtags and other dumb bullshit. I actually care, and I believe I am coming at this with good faith. I want to see TF2 live and thrive and succeed for forever, because I love this game. I've been playing it pretty much every day since 2011, and I don't want it to go away. I want it to last for as long as it can, and there will be disagreements. Not everyone's going to be on the same page. My opinions are naturally, because of who I am, just some of the most volatile in the community, and I come off as standoffish, and, you know, my approach to things is crass, but you don't have to agree. You don't have to agree with what I say. You don't have to agree with what anyone says. I think the main thing that has kept this game alive is the diversity of opinion, and the fact we can still have it, and the fact we can still talk about it and engage in all of this and do all of these things. And it's keeping it going. It's keeping the fucking dynamo of this powerhouse of a game alive. And when we can't sit down and talk about games like this to this extent, then I think that's a sign of it's over. But the fact I'm still able to do this now, over 10 years when I started playing this game, is a good thing. And even though largely I feel as though I'm in the wrong here, I probably am, but that's just my opinion, man. That's just like my opinion, and that's just like Array's opinion. It's just, we all have opinions, and at the end of the day, everyone's got opinions. Opinions are like noses, armpits, and assholes. They all smell. To somebody, right? To somebody. So, I don't know. Yeah, and just because there's a difference of opinions doesn't mean everyone does this for views. If I was doing this for views, I could have really dumbed this down, and I wouldn't have been awake since 3 a.m. So if you think I'm doing this for views, fuck you.